So for my project, I chose two books for my twin text projects. Um, Moon, Earth's Best Friend, and A Moon of My Own. Moon, Earth's Best Friend is a basically a true book. It's quote unquote an autobiography of the moon. It's kind of wrote like from the moon's point of view, but it's factual. It's all true. All the statements in it are are true stories. The second one is called A Moon of My Own, and it's basically a little girl who travels the world, and no matter what country she's in, the moon follows her. So what I did for mine to start with, we have math integration, and for our project, we're going to take two objects. It could be, maybe balloons, foil, something like that. We're going to make our first object, and then we're going to use the numbers that are given to us. And the first object will be the large object, and it'll be our Earth. We're going to figure out the size of our Earth, and then we're going to scale down and make a moon to scale compared to the size of the Earth. The moon should end up being about 1/4 the size of the Earth. Next, we'll figure out the distances between them. Most kids have never seen the distances between the Earth and Moon. They don't understand, like, to scale how far apart they really should be. So as you can see in this picture, the Moon and the Earth are actually really far apart. So make sure you don't let your kids pick a big object, or you're going to run out of room in your classroom. If you do a basketball, the moon should be about close to the size of a softball, and it's going to be about 25 feet away from your basketball. So, like I say, be careful on how big you let your kids make the Earth. If they pick something like a beach volleyball or a beach ball, you're not going to have the room in your classroom to be able to do this project. So make sure they don't get carried away with the size of Earth. Next, what I would do is I would actually have my kids shine a flashlight, and I would set my Earth up, and before I even figured out before I measured exactly how far the Earth and Moon should be apart, I would take and I would start moving my moon toward the flashlight, as you can see in this bottom right corner down here. And you start moving the moon back until its shadows cover the entire Earth. Now, that shadow should be one dark spot in the middle and just a light shadow on the sides to represent like a full eclipse, and that will get you close to how far away your moon and Earth should be. And then from there, if you want, take an exact measurement and make some small changes from there. But if you do it with the light, you can represent a pretty good idea as to how far they should be apart without having to measure, and then have your kids fine tune it with measurements later. But that's just a fun way for them to be able to see how far the Earth is away from the moon to scale without even measuring it out. And then for the last part of our project, we know there are 12 men who have walked on the moon. We have them all listed here, and there's 2 men that should have walked on the moon and did not get to on the Apollo 13 mission. But have your students pick out these 12 men, and maybe you can pick out the 2 who didn't make it if you want to have a couple extras in there. And then have each student look up the history of these astronauts, maybe the history of the missions, what parts of the moon they went to. They could research how the astronaut became an astronaut. Like, some were Navy pilots, some were Marines, some came up through other fields. And then maybe whatever person you assign, so say maybe I assign David Scott, they should figure out also while they're doing his research, was he the first person to walk on the moon, the 5th person, and have each kid figure out like where in order his man walked on the moon from 1 to 12. Also maybe talk about what problems the astronauts might have ran into on each of their missions. No mission ever goes perfectly smooth. So have your kids research a little bit on, the ups and downs of each person's mission and maybe some of the struggles they went through. And then if you want to do it also like just something on the side, you could do a social studies integration with the a book on the or in the book A Moon of My Own. The little girl travels the world and the moon follows her. So I probably wouldn't do this part, but it's something if I needed to add more, I would add later. She's seen in places throughout the world: Paris, the Middle East, Africa, rainforest, and others. Have your children pick 2 different countries from this book, and then they can kind of compare and contrast like the cultures of these countries or maybe the landscapes or different things about the countries.